All right, let's start with the first question of part two. So the table didn't show up on my page, but I just have it here. So let's take a look at it. So you're being asked to complete the following table. They've given you two values, which is pretty nice because right away, if I'm given sine, I can find cosecant that. I'm just going to flip that. So that'd be 2 over root 3. Make sure it's negative. And then they've given me secant, so I can flip that. So that'd be negative 1/2. So right away, I can actually find all the other values pretty quickly because then tangent, remember, is just sine over cosine. And the 2's will cancel, and then it'll become positive, so it's just root 3. And then cotangent is just a flip of that, so it'll be 1 over root 3. So I won't rationalize that. I'll leave it in that form. So notice I can quickly fill this table out really easily without even using the unit circle. If I understand the relationship between sine, cosine, and tangent, and also the reciprocal functions. Now, what's really important is taking a look at sine and cosine, because this is going to tell me where on the unit circle we are. And in fact, we're going to be in quadrant 3 because the cosine, which is the x value, is negative, and the y value, which is sine, is also negative. So we're somewhere down here, but the question is where. So I'm actually going to go to the first quadrant to help me think about this. Because the x value is 1/2, the y value is root 3 over 2. So if I can figure out what this angle is, I can figure out what that is down there. Which in this case, since it's 1/2, that's first. We have a much larger y value. So therefore, I know this is going to be pi thirds. Pi 6 would be much smaller. Then it'll go pi 4, so this is clearly pi thirds. That means to go from here to there, I'm rotating down, or no, I'm not rotating down, I'm rotating another pi thirds. So I can just add pi to pi thirds, and what you'll see is that is 4 pi thirds. And there's your table. Okay, moving on to the next question. I've kind of started to sketch on this already. But again, remember, what's the relationship between cosecant and sine? Well, they are the same function, they're just flipped. So as I draw in here, you should be able to see that that's my sine function right there. And right away, you can see that the highest it goes is 1/2, the lowest it goes is negative 1/2. So you know the amplitude, if I wrote out the sine function, would be 1/2 sine. So therefore, this is 1/2 cosecant. But the other important part, and some of you missed it, is how fast this is going, because it will complete its cycle at pi. So it's going pretty fast, or faster than it usually is. Usually it would take all the way to 2 pi to complete a full revolution. So that means, well, what's the period? The period is pi. So again, 2 pi divided by the b value is going to equal the period, which in this case is pi. So b is equal to 2. So this would be your equation here, okay? To write the secant equation, again, the amplitude stays the same. There's your secant. I do need to shift it, but the question is how far do I need to shift it? So zoom in on the graph, and knowing that it's doubled the speed, I know that right here, this is pi fourths. How do I know that? Because originally, sine would hit the max at pi halves. Since we're going double the speed, it's like we've cut all the input values in half. So that is pi fourths. So remember, secant is cosine, and cosine starts at its maximum and goes down. So therefore, to get that maximum right here to be right there, I have to shift it right pi fourths. So your equation here, if I were to zoom out, would be 1/2 secant of 2 parentheses x minus pi fourths. If you did distribute the 2 through, this would be secant of 2x minus pi halves. And there is your secant equation. Okay, moving on to the third one. So looking at this, again, I'll zoom in a little bit more. But remember, if it's a tangent graph, which is what this is a tangent. Cotangent's going the other way. This is a tangent graph. Remember, tangent is undefined at pi halves, negative pi halves. So let's take a look. Where are the vertical asymptotes? Well, it seems like it is a negative pi halves and pi halves. You can kind of see them right there. I'm just quickly sketching them. So what does that tell me? Well, that tells me the input values weren't affected at all. So there's no horizontal shift. There's no amplitude. Sorry, let me backtrack. There's no period change or anything like that. So right away, I know it's tangent. But now the question is, okay, the output values were clearly affected because tangent, the critical points are 0, pi force 1, and negative pi force negative 1. It would kind of look like this. Okay, so it has been affected, but the question is how? Well, right away you should notice that it's been shifted down, so there should be a -1 here. Another indicator is if you notice it still lines up at 1 here. Do you see how that at pi force it's at 1, and then at negative pi force now it's down here at -3. So the question is, what is the amplitude? How's it being affected? Well, it's easier to see it on this one because you can see that it is a vertical stretch of 2. Do you see how it goes up 2 and over 1? Because naturally what it was before was just a stretch up 1 over 1 for the parent function, and then it would be down here as well. You can see that kind of vertical stretch for the original tangent. Okay, so right away I can tell that there was a dilation or a factor by 2. So that would be my equation for tangent. Okay. All right, let's talk about question 4. This one's a little meatier, meaning that there's a lot going on here. You don't have to know the equations to answer these questions. In fact, you can figure out all this information just basically off of this and understanding the relationship between sine and cosecant. So let's jump into it. So first off, I have here sketched the vertical asymptotes right there. That's all they've given me. And the first thing I will notice is, all right, well, remember cosecant will have a piece like this, and then there'll be another piece on the bottom. Or you can have the reverse where this is on the bottom, this is up top. We don't know which one it is. So therefore, I'm just going to assume for now it'll be up and then down. What that tells me is that between those two vertical asymptotes, that isn't a full period. In fact, it's half the period. So I can figure out what the period actually is by subtracting, you can see right here, and finding the distance, or how far apart they are, which is 9 pi over 3, which turns out to be 3 pi. That means this distance here is 3 pi. So if I go another 3 pi, then I've completed the cycle. So therefore, I know the period has to be 6 pi. So again, I'll say it again. Since I know that the distance between these two vertical asymptotes is 3 pi, I therefore know that the period is actually 6 pi. Which means if I know it's 6 pi, I can figure out what the b value is, because 2 pi divided by b, the b value gives you 6 pi, which is 1/3. So right away, this answer is out. So let me backtrack. This one's gone right away. Okay? So now let's take a look at a few other things. I'm going to jump down to the next one because remember, secant starts at a max here. So if this is if I need to get secant to match there, that means I need to shift it so that way this is your max. Does that make sense? I need to get that there. So I need to figure out how far do I need to shift it. Well, remember that cosecant is basically in the middle of those vertical asymptotes, right? So just find the midpoint here, and let's see if that's actually pi. Well, to do that, I can just take 11 over 3, the fractions, and I'll ignore the pi's for a second, plus, or actually I'll put the pi's in. We'll keep them in. There you go. I'm just going to find the middle term between them. That would be like 13 pi over 3, and again, I'm going to divide it all by 2. So if I did pull out a calculator, this would be 13 over 3 divided by 2, and the fraction comes out to be 13 pi. So that would be 13 pi 6. So right away, I know to get there to there, that's not a shift right pi. It'd have to be a different shift, so therefore that one's out. Okay, so that one is definitely gone. So right away, I've done a few things without actually seeing the graph or knowing what the exact equations are. Okay, let's talk about the next one. So this one here, the f of h and g of h. So let's go up to these equations. So what that's saying is if I replace this x with h and this x with h, let's look and see what happens. That gives you 0, which means the input value is going to be 0. So no matter what those a's are, or k's are, for either of them, or b for that matter, you're going to get 0. So let's think about what that means. Sine of 0, think about that, sine of 0 is 0. Think about the unit circle. That'd be right here. Your y value is 0. But if you flip it for cosecant, ooh, that's undefined. So to say that f of h equals g of h would be untrue, because g of h is 0, f of h would be undefined. So therefore, that is not true. That one's out. Okay? So again, I'm figuring this all out without having to use a graph or know what the exact equations are. So now let's move on to the two that are correct. So first, let's jump on this one. Going off that same idea, remember the relationship between g of x and f of x is they're reciprocals of each other. And since sine is the flip of cosecant, or rather cosecant is the flip of sine, everywhere you see a vertical asymptote, that means sine, the sine function equals 0, right? Because if I flip it, then it's 1 over 0. So let's see when the next vertical asymptote would be. Because if the distance here is 3 pi, let's actually add another 3 pi distance. So if I take 11 pi over 3 and add 3 pi, notice that would be the same as saying this, 9 pi over 3. That gives you 20 pi over 3. So therefore, I know I have a vertical asymptote at 20 pi thirds for your cosecant graph, which means you betcha you get a 0 for your sine graph. Okay. And now finally, the last one, the interval to complete a full cycle. So if I were to take a look, again, I'm using this 3 pi idea. I know it would complete a cycle over here from 2 pi thirds to 20 pi thirds. We just saw that. But what if I go the other way? Well, all I have to do is just subtract 3 pi and move that direction. So 2 pi over 3 minus 3 pi, or in other words, that's just 9 pi over 3. That would give me an answer of negative 7 pi thirds, which, take a look, there it is. Okay. And really quickly, for the last two questions, again, this is going to be law of cosine and law of sines. I'm trying to keep this video under 15. But if I look for question number 5, I need to know this side length, or else I can't use any law of sines or law of cosines. But I do know those two sides in that angle, so I can use law of cosines to find that missing side, which comes out to be 18.95, and then I can use law of sines from there to figure out what this is, and then I'll just need to use the inverse of sine to do that. So it's pretty straightforward, but again, in order to answer this question, you need to know what this length is, and then use the law of sines to finish it off. Okay, that's as much as I'll show for that one. And then for the last one, again, you just need to figure out what this angle is, which is 137. And then this is just a law of sine setup. You can kind of see my work there. And then solve for AB by multiplying by sine of 28 to that side. And then using the calculator, you'll finish it off. And there you have it. That is your Unit 6 Part 2 summative assessment.